All right, guys, I wanted to go over some of the basics here about the pitching system in NP3. I had a question the other day. It actually came to me via Twitter from one of my loyal either readers or watchers. I don't know who all watches, but I think he probably watches some of these. And the question was about, what's this pitching system about, right? I forget from time to time, there's some of you who might have no experience at all with playing APBA and might be a little bit sort of confused as to exactly what's going on, especially if you buy this game yourself and you're like, okay, this guy's grade is dropping. What does it mean? Does it mean it's time to take him out or what? So the first thing I'll do is I'll answer that question for you before we dive into the board, see what's going on. When you're playing these games, don't worry so much about the boards, right? Even if you're playing with cards and dice, you have the old Skeetersoft fan boards and the cards and all that stuff. You don't want to worry so much about what the boards are telling you. You want to worry more about what's happening in the game and try to manage realistically. This has been sort of the advice that's been given on the Skeetersoft forums for years now. And that's really sort of the best way to do it. Don't think too much about like the possibilities or try to do all the math in your head. Instead, play the game as if it's a game of baseball that's playing out in front of you. It'll be a much more memorable experience. So having said that, let's go take a look, see what's going on. We'll go over here to rules. So the entire boards are here, but they're kind of hard to understand, right? So if you start here with the advanced pitching rules, you're going to look at this and be like, APR, yeah, APR means advanced pitching rules, right? And Cyrus had to shorten this so it's readable. There's all this blah, 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 whatever. We're going to just go over the very, very basics here today, right? Basics are going to come up here on the boards. Now, it's harder to see this than having the actual fan boards in front of you. Unfortunately, I don't have scans of those boards. If I did, I would show them to you, but I don't have them in front of me. But it's okay. This works just as well. The way that these boards originally worked is you would have like a single board, and it would have all of the play result numbers from 11 down through 45 at the bottom, and then you would have one side for each of these 8 on base situations that you see here, right? So and the boards from 12 to 45 are divided up into 3 different fielding columns. We don't have to worry about that here because we're only talking about pitching, right? 1 through 11 are the results that basically are base hit results. Doesn't mean that there are no base hits here. There are some, but it's a lot more rare. Again, don't worry about it too much. Don't worry too much about the math behind it and stuff like that. We're just going to go over the real basic stuff that you probably should know about and be concerned about. So when it comes to hit results 1 through 11, there are some 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that are influenced by the pitcher's grade. There's going to be 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if we look under pitching grade letter D, this is the old APBA system, right? Pitchers are given a grade of A, B, C, or D. D is the equivalent of failure, right? As if the pitcher were not there. D is basically the national pastime game by Clifford Van Beek, right? Not 100%, but basically very, very similar. With pitching grade D, everything will always be a hit from 1 through 11. The D pitcher is ineffective and cannot stop anything. Doesn't matter if there's runners on first, runners on second and third. Doesn't matter what's going on. You can see these are all going to be base hits all around the way. Every single one will be a hit, right? If it's not a D, if it's an A, B, or a C, you'll see pitchers who are able to prevent things from happening, right? In general, but not all the time, a C usually will stop play result 9. Base is empty, it will stop that. With runners on first, it will stop a 9. Runner on second, it stops a 9, right? You see it's not a base hit anymore. You'll notice if you do some research that actually, no, this will not change any of these other ones that are hits. These stay constant, right? Not so easy to see here with these boards. If you had the boards in front of you, you would see because it's listed as a change to the board. Runner on third, a 9 turns into an out. Runners on first and second, a 9 becomes an out. Now, runners on first and third against a C, it's not a 9, it's an 8. This is a little bit of that gamification. It doesn't come up that often. It's easy to forget when it comes up because you're not used to seeing it. Runners on second and third, it's a 9 and a 10 that are both stopped by a C. When the base is loaded again, it's a 9, right? Conversely, a B will usually stop result 8. So runner's base is empty, stops an 8. Runner on first stops an 8. Runner on second stops an 8 and a 10. Runner on third, it will stop an 8. First and second, it will stop an 8 and a 10. First and third, it doesn't do anything. Interesting. So I got to watch out with runners on first and third. I'm sorry, it will stop a 7, right? Second and third, it'll stop either an 8 or a 9, which is also interesting. A little gamification again. And then with bases full, it will stop play result number 8. And then for the A, which is kind of like the Superman, A will stop with the bases empty, 8 and 9. The runner on first base is stopped 7 and 8. Runner on second will stop an 8, 9, and a 10. The runner on third will stop a 7 and a 9. Runners on first and second will stop an 8, 9, and a 10. Runners on first and third will stop 8, 9, and 10. Second and third, you have 7, 9, and 10. And then with the bases loaded, we'll stop an 8 and a 9. Now, there are other combinations available as well. You can have an A and B or an A and C, which goes above just A, so that you default first to the A rating, and then if the A does not stop the hit, then you go look at the B or at the C or whatever. Those are naturally for hitters that or for pitchers that are a little bit more skilled. If you want to know exactly what kind of impact this is going to have in any specific base situation. Again, it's not as easy as just looking at the boards, but you can play with it here. So you can see that an A and B, with the runner with the bases loaded, doesn't really make a difference because the A already stops that 9. A and C also is not going to make much of a difference. But if we go and we have runners on first and third, an A and B will also stop a 7. So against an A and B, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all outs. A and C, however, doesn't stop that 7. So against an A and C, it's only 8, 9, and 10 that are outs. So there you go. Now, when it comes to how the cards are created, right, each of these individual play result numbers sort of has a play result number attached to it, right, mathematically, that shows how strong it is, depending, of course, on the pitching grades of the pitchers in the league. And that's sort of the way that you go about fine-tuning these things. So if you sit down and you just think about it for a second, you'll get it. And you'll say, oh, well, that's actually a pretty simple system. The thing that's amazing about this system, though, is that it works, as you've seen in this replay, it works pretty good at making sure that hitters are getting the right amounts of base hits, and that the runs being scored are about where they need to be, despite the fact that it's not a 50-50 system, and despite the fact that it's so simple and it's so basic. It only stops 4 different base hit numbers, but it works. It works pretty well. Now, interesting thing about this system, and we haven't really gotten to this point in the blog because I'm going really slow, is that when J. Richard Seitz created the system at first, he would grade pitchers with using the A, B, C, and D letter grades based, as far as we know, on the ERA and on the won-loss record of the pitcher. And I think also slightly on how well the team did in real life, so that he'd get the pennant winners winning the pennant. Then people would talk about how great and realistic APBA was. I'm not kidding. My dad would tell me back when he first introduced the game to me that APBA was a very realistic game, because the teams that won in game were the same teams that won in real life. I mean, it's not like, oh man, how ignorant we were. This is, I think, even to this day, what a lot of people look for first and foremost, right? So J. Richard Seitz designed it so that that would be the case, and that it would focus first on won-loss record and ERA, and a little bit on how the team did. And then as time went on, people started to dissect the system, and also after the Master Game came out, things started to change, and there was this real clamoring in the community for something that was based on the batted against average, which makes more sense when you think about the system, right? Because you're controlling really base hits, not wins, not earned runs, sort of earned runs, but not really. All right. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, maybe in a couple of days. We'll talk about things like how those grades are determined. But the very first thing you need to know is that when you're playing Skeetersoft, you see those A, B, C, or D ratings for the pitchers. That's what that refers to. And it gets complicated when we're looking at if a guy's bunting, if the hit and run is on. It gets a little bit more complicated than that. There are little things and little quirks that happen in the system. But by and large, overall, that's pretty much how it is. And it's actually quite a realistic system. You'd be surprised. In fact, I would say that especially for dead ball era seasons, that this system actually works better than the 50-50 split system. I think that it works better because it's a little bit more focused on sort of hit distribution, and you don't have, you're not so much at the mercy of outliers as you are in your 50-50 system. Love to know what you think about this, especially if this is new to you, if this is any sort of help or not, and see how we can make these sort of videos a little bit better, more useful for you. Talk with you later. Bye.